The Wife is First. Volume 2, Campaign in the Land Under Heaven. Chapter 58, Traitor. Mu Hanjiang smiled but did not said anything. He held the letter with one hand and started to read it. After reading a couple of lines, he remembered that this was a private correspondence between the two brothers. He turned to look at Jing Shao and found that the man was kneading his other hand and was playing with it in contentment. He shook his head helplessly. "By the way, you haven't told me what was inside the second brocade pouch." Jing Shao rubbed and fiddled with the jade-like hand for a moment and thought that they really seemed delectable. He couldn't help but put it to his mouth to nibble for a nit. When he saw his prince consort looked over at him, he let the hand go and hurriedly found something to say. "Wow-oh." The little tiger woke up from where it was napping on the foot of the bed. It grabbed the bed sheets with all of its strength and struggled to climb up. As soon as Jing Shao let go of Mu Hanjiang's hand, Xiao Huang immediately hugged it. Flicking the little tiger's head with his fingers, Mu Hanjiang retracted his hand and hid it under the quilt. He chuckled then said, "It was just in case of contingency. If Zhao Meng didn't fall for the trap and honestly broke through the pass, he would naturally fight all the way and wouldn't have the chance to look into the pouch." That was why Zhao Meng was repeatedly told not to open the brocade pouch in advance. It was because the strategies inside the pouches contradicted each other. The little tiger couldn't find its owner's hand, so it pounced on Jing Shao's hand instead and bit it. Jing Shao was hurt by that bite, so he pinched the tiger's mouth and pulled his hand out, only to find that there was an extra tooth mark that had turned blue on his thumb. "Huh? Did you grow another teeth?" He reached out and tried to open the furbal's mouth to see if there were more teeth. Mu Hanjiang pulled Jing Shao's hand and rubbed the part that had been bitten and said, "Don't let it bite you. You might get sick if the skin breaks." Elderly people often said that being bitten by an animal was unlucky since they might contract an incurable disease. Jing Shao turned the little tiger over and spread it on all fours, holding onto its forepaws and refusing to let go no matter how hard it struggled. "Wow-oh." The little tiger was dissatisfied and stretched out his head to bite Jing Shao with resentment, but couldn't reach. It was so angry that its long tail kept whipping around on the quilt. After teaching the little tiger a lesson, Jing Shao continued with what they were discussing earlier. What if Zhao Meng broke through the mountain pass and still looked inside the brocade pouch? Mu Hanjiang picked up the little tiger over who was losing its temper after being bullied and patted it comfortingly. He then laid it on its back between his legs and gently scratched its belly. Then he replied, "Do you think that in that situation, Zhao Meng would be able to decipher that message? By the time he came back, I would have something prepared to say to him. The sea of suffering has no end, but if you turn around, you will find the shore." One needed to be in the sea of suffering in order for him to figure out the meaning behind this message. If the journey had turned out to be smooth, Zhao Meng would definitely not have the patience to decipher the meaning of this cryptic message. "Yun Cheng, you." Jing Shao was speechless for a moment. This was too deceptive. Fortunately, Zhao Meng blindly admired the military advisor. After being placated with comforting pats, the little tiger rubbed against the quit and then unexpectedly fell asleep with its belly up. Mu Hanjiang smiled and leaned his head on Jing Shao's neck. That's why since ancient times, advisors worded their counsels in an ambiguous manner using excuses that the mysteries of the heavens could not be revealed in full. It was simply because they themselves are not sure. In some respects, advisors were no different from a fortune teller. Jing Shao helplessly embraced the man into his arms and picked up his brother's letter to discuss court matters with his prince consort. The incident this time could be traced back to the fact that they audited the accounts before leaving the capital. Any slight change would have led the subsequent events to take a completely different direction. It was better to be more cautious in the future. What he had experienced in the previous life may not always be useful in this life. After lunch, Mu Hanjiang wanted to go out for a walk, but Jing Shao forced him to lie down on the bed and asked him to rest. He was unable to convince his husband otherwise, so he could only take another nap with the tiger cub in his arms. The little tiger found it too stuffy under the quilt, so it crawled onto the pillow and hugged his master's head to sleep. When the Right Protectorate General came in to look for him, he saw the military advisor, who was sleeping quietly wearing a tiger skin hat that was extremely inconsistent with his temperament. Ha ha ha. The Right Protectorate General couldn't help but laugh out loud, which suddenly woke up Mu Hanjiang, who was sleeping lightly. Seeing that the Right Protectorate General had come, Mu Hanjiang moved the little tiger above his head and slowly sat up to ask, "The Right Protectorate General is here, what's the matter?" "Well, that is. His Highness had arrested Wang Er, who was in charge of keeping the accounts of the rations. In the evening, the cook went to get food, but there was no one there to keep tally of the supplies, so I came to ask the military advisor as to whom we should replace him with. Because of the incident of the assassin disguising himself to be from the miscellaneous workers' camp, the Right Protectorate General had been busy all day handling the military affairs and investigating any suspicious individuals. His stomach had rumbled with hunger. He went to get the cook and had them start preparing dinner for the officers, but it resulted with him being told that they have yet to receive the food rations for that evening. Wang Er was arrested. Mu Hanjiang frowned and instructed, "Transfer the clerk who is responsible for the correspondence for the miscellaneous workers' camp for the meanwhile." "All right." The Right Protectorate General turned around and walked out, but after taking a few steps, he turned back and watched the military advisor, who was slowly putting on his outer garments. He wanted to say something but felt some hesitations. "Is there anything else?" Mu Hanjiang looked up at him. That rascal Jing Shao had taken off his outer garments and his pants for him. With the Right Protectorate General hovering around, Mu Hanjiang couldn't get out of bed and put on his pants. The Right Protectorate General scratched his head, feeling that this matter should not be asked arbitrarily, but he was extremely curious. Thus, he moved a stool and sat beside the bed to ask, "Military advisor, what exactly is going on between you and His Highness?" Mu Hanjiang was stunned for a moment, then slowly lowered his eyes. If the Right Protectorate General have no more official business to discuss, then he should leave as soon as possible. When the Right Protectorate General saw this appearance of his, he suddenly felt that his guess must be right. His Highness must have been forcing the military advisor to submit himself to him completely. He sighed and said, "Military advisor, you are a man with real ability and talents. If His Highness is bullying you, you don't have to be afraid. I have been following His Highness for many years." Although the words he spoke may sound fierce, he actually has a good heart. "I think the Right Protectorate General must have misunderstood." Mu Hanjiang raised his eyes and looked at him with a smile that was not actually a smile. "My relationship with His Highness is just like the relationship between the Right and the Left Protectorate General." "Ah!" The Right Protectorate General jumped up immediately. How could it be the same? The relationship between him and Little Left was developed after so many years of fighting on the battlefield. How could it be the same as the ambiguous relationship between His Highness and the military advisor? As he imagined how Little Left would wipe his sweat and tuck him under the quilt the way that His Highness did, he couldn't help but shudder. That was really terrible. The Right Protectorate General was frightened with what his imagination had conjured. Looking at the military advisor's abstruse smile, he had a feeling that the man had seen right through him. The Right Protectorate General immediately felt uncomfortable and couldn't sit there any longer. He quickly gave his farewells and left as if he was running away. After the Right Protectorate General left, Mu Hanjiang frowned slightly. Now, even the Right Protectorate General have noticed the ambiguous relationship between him and Jing Shao. He wondered what sort of rumors were spreading about throughout the camp now. Furthermore, what was that about Wang Er being arrested? He got up and dressed properly. Then he went to find the rascal who caused all these troubles and settle the score with him. As soon as he walked into the center tent, he saw Zhang Lang handing a small booklet to Jing Shao. "Yun Cheng, you're here just in time, come and take a look at this." Jing Shao raised the booklet in his hand. The cover was yellowed and the corners of the paper were rolled up. It had obviously been used for many years. Mu Hanjiang took the booklet and opened it only to see a dense recording of some numbers and brief phrases inside. He couldn't decipher anything from the first pages, but when he flipped to the back of the booklet, his eyes widened slowly. Where did this thing come from? It was found in Wang Er's belongings, Jing Shao admitted. Mu Hanjiang didn't have time to argue with him about his petty behavior and said seriously, I don't know what the accounts in the front are, but the following pages in the back are records of the army rations and fodder as well as the amounts used on the daily. I have explicitly forbidden the copying of this information in private, and the last page should be an excerpt of a correspondence with someone. As he spoke, he turned the book upside down and opened the last page to show Jing Shao. Jing Shao took it over and looked at it carefully. Each line seemed to be a recording of what had been promised to him by the person with whom Wang Er was in correspondence with. Zhang Lang said that he had searched Wang Er's quarters but had not found letters or anything like that. The amount of ration and fodder. Jing Shao silently pondered about this booklet. At first, he wondered if this information was meant to be reported to the fourth prince. But now the army was already far from the capital, so reporting the amount of ration and fodder would be useless for the fourth prince. If there was anyone whom this information would be most useful to, that would be the Southeast King and the Southwest King. Have the left Protectorate General interrogate Wang Er immediately. Be sure to find out who he was in contact with and the methods of their communication. Jing Shao asked Zhang Lang to handle the matter immediately. End chapter. The Wife is First. Volume 2, Campaign in the Land Under Heaven. Chapter 59, Yun Cheng. After Zhang Lang left, Mu Hanjiang walked up to Jing Shao and asked, how did you know that there was something wrong with Wang Er? He wanted to know how did this man suddenly thought of investigating the previously inconspicuous bookkeeping scribe. Jing Shao reached out a hand to hold Mu Hanjiang on his waist as he wrote a letter to his imperial father letting him know that he was safe. I saw his shifty eyes today and became suspicious. What Jing Shao said was complete nonsense, as he didn't even have the chance to see Wang Er's face. However, this imperial prince would never admit that he did it in order to get rid of a lascivious man who was coveting his prince consort. The body in his arms emitted a faint scent of medicine. Jing Shao never liked the smell of medicine before, but when the scent mixed in with the natural scent of his prince consort, it smelled surprisingly good. He couldn't help but bury his nose in Mu Hanjiang's robes and sniffed hard. Mu Hanjiang felt tickled by this, so he struggled out of his arms and sat to the side. Are you going to report the suspicious actions of the Southeast King to His Majesty? Yeah. Jing Shao was quite dissatisfied that he couldn't eat even this small amount of tofu. However, although his prince consort was sitting next to him, he couldn't do anything about it. With this angle, if he reached out his arms to keep him within his embrace, he wouldn't be able to write. Jing Shao had no choice but to give it up this time and earnestly finished writing the letter as soon as possible. You should mention Hao's significant contribution and the bravery of the Shu army. Mu Hanjiang glanced at what Jing Shao had written and reminded him aloud. The Shu army. Jing Shao turned to look at him in confusion. Hao's achievements and background had to be mentioned. He also expected his imperial father to quickly promote Hao in the rank of a general, but what's this about the Shu army? They just followed Hao to fight. They were no different from the Hunan army and the Gizhu army. Why should they be mentioned in particular? Mu Hanjiang smiled and said, Your Highness, have you forgotten that the Shu army was still in Yunnan and Tibet a while ago, following the eldest prince to fight against the barbarians? The Shu army was originally mobilized to rescue the eldest prince. After Jing Rong was rescued, he led the Shu army to attack the barbarians again but had little success. When the battle for the southwest began, Emperor Hongzheng transferred the Shu army back under Jing Shao's command in the southwest fiefdom, leaving only the troops of General Zheng Dong, who had been initially assigned to the eldest prince, to continue to struggle in the north. When Jing Shao heard what his wife said, he frowned and analyzed the situation. If he praised the bravery of the Shu army, Emperor Hongzhen would remember that the Shu army had no achievements in the hands of the eldest prince, creating a comparison which clearly showed who was better. Yun Cheng. Fortunately you didn't marry anyone else. Jing Shao said slowly after a moment of silence. Mu Hanzhong shook his head and sighed softly. Even if I married someone else, I would never help them this wholeheartedly. I'm afraid there is no other person in this world like you who dotes on me and believes in me unconditionally. Mu Hanzhong didn't say the last sentence and only looked at Jing Shao quietly. Seeing his mouth gradually widening, he couldn't help but reach out and pinch his cheek. That's to be expected. Amongst the royal family, there is no one more handsome than me. Jing Shao said proudly. Mu Hanzhong was immediately amused by him. He chuckled and said, "That's right, there is no one in the royal family who is more thicker-skinned than you." The two of them chatted and teased each other until the letter informing the emperor of their safety was finally finished. The left Protectorate General then arrived to report the results of the interrogation. Wang Er was unable to endure the torture and quickly confessed everything. The person who contacted him was a low-level official in the capital. He gave him money and only asked him to send information about the total amount of provisions used by the army every day and that he didn't need to worry about anything else. When did this start? Jing Shao asked. Wang Er has been in contact with them after he became a scribe while we were still in the outskirts of the capital. However, he only started sending the information out after we crossed the Shu border. The left Protectorate General gave a very detailed answer. He had always been responsible for interrogations in the army, so he knows best on how far he should go in order to get a reliable answer. The number of soldiers in the camp could be estimated based on the daily amount of food that was being distributed. Jing Shao frowned. No wonder the mounted cavalry launched a surprise attack to assassinate him that day. They had determined that the bulk of the army was not on the camp, and so there was a very high chance that they could kill him. That low-level official, Mu Hanzhong, slowly rubbed the agate paperweight on Jing Shao's table. I think it was the hidden spy planted by the Southwest King in the capital. The one who started paying attention to news about the army's movement even before they even set off should be none other than the Southwest King. Wang Er doesn't know that person's name. There is another person who contacted him after arriving in the Southwest. The left Protectorate General handed over a letter. This is a message that Wang Er didn't have the chance to send over today. There were only a few neatly written words and numbers on the note, and it was wrapped tightly in a piece of oiled paper. Mu Hanzhong held the note and looked at it for a moment, then he took a piece of paper and wrote down a few characters which were the same as Wang Er's calligraphy, except that the number on them was nearly 3 times more than the one on the real note. This tally included the number of soldiers in the Shu army. Jing Shao took the note and read it, and immediately understood what his prince consort meant. This would make the opponents think that the Shu army must have returned to the camp. Therefore, the Southwest Army or the Southeast Army, who might be lying to ambush nearby, wouldn't dare to act rashly. When they set off tomorrow, the chance of encountering an ambush will be greatly reduced. The left Protectorate General looked at the note in his hand and was greatly surprised. Originally, he spared Wang Er's life because he thought that Prince Cheng might consider using him to send false information outside. Who would have thought that the military advisor had such a unique skill? Your Highness, what should we do about Wang Er? Should we dispose of him? Jing Shao frowned and said, kill him, but keep it quiet. Although he really wanted a public execution in front of the whole army of this lustful man who dared to covet his prince consort, no, he meant, this traitorous person who collaborated with the enemy. However, he needed to use Wang Er's identity to pass on false information, so the execution could only be conducted in secret. When they broke camp the next day, Jing Shao asked Zhang Lang to add another quilt to the bottom of the carriage because he was afraid that the road might be too bumpy. By fighting through Shengjing Pass, they were able to enter the center of the Southwest Territory. Unexpectedly, they encountered very little resistance on their entire way. It must have been due to yesterday's secret message. Hao Das Hao's scout party had already reached the main city Yun Cheng. The Southwest Army did not have the energy to deal with an army whose number suddenly got larger, so they probably had already returned to the city for reinforcements. Seeing that there were no obstacles on their way, Jing Shao got into the military advisor's carriage and let Xiao He follow the carriage around in boredom. The little tiger's front paw was hanging by the window ledge inside the carriage as it looked out. It was very curious about Xiao He, which was outside the carriage. It stared at the horse intently. When it saw that Xiao He was just trotting along and ignoring it, the little tiger stretched out its claws towards Xiao He. Xiao He glanced at the fluffy ball by the carriage window and blew hot air on it. Meow! The little tiger cub was startled. It rolled into a ball and fell down, falling on the soft quilt, and let out a shrill scream. Oh, it can even meow like a cat, Jing Shao was surprised. He grabbed Xiao Huang and tugged his ears. Meow again. Wow! The little tiger wasn't happy when he saw Jing Shao. It shook its head to prevent him from touching its ears. Mu Hanjiang smiled and touched its soft round ears as he asked, "Why aren't you out there? What do you think it looked like if you are inside this carriage?" The military advisor's injury is not yet fully healed, and this prince cares about him more than life itself. Naturally, this prince would have to look after the military advisor in the carriage. Jing Shao laid down on the big soft pillow and leaned next to his prince consort. "When you act like this, what do you think your army will say?" Mu Hanjiang sighed helplessly. The Right Protectorate General Guard already asked blatantly that day. Jing Shao must have done something that he wasn't aware of. "Let them think whatever they want," Jing Shao said nonchalantly, thinking about how he could let everyone know that the military advisor was actually his prince consort and discourage anyone from having any inappropriate thoughts. Since he found the portrait of Yun Cheng in Wang Er's personal belongings, Jing Shao had discovered how popular his prince consort was within his army. Even that spy couldn't help but admire him. Then, wouldn't there be others? He had a sudden feeling of crisis that someone else had discovered his treasure and they didn't even know that this treasure belonged to him. Mu Hanjiang glared at him. Then, he took the little tiger into his arms and closed his eyes to sleep. The little tiger wriggled around within its owner's arms. It twisted back and forth and kneaded the man's beautifully shaped chin with the fleshy pads of its claws, rubbing its head against him. Ha ha! Mu Hanjiang felt tickled like this and lowered his head to look at it. The little tiger turned its belly up like a baby and called out to its owner. Because the sound was too high-pitched, its wow turned into meow. Jing Shao found it too displeasing, so he went over to pick up the tiger cub and threw it into the corner of the carriage. Then he walked over and occupied the seat next to Yun Cheng. Seeing his childish behavior, Mu Hanjiang couldn't help but chuckle and reached out to pat the top of his hair. "If you don't want to go out, just sleep for a while. It would be hard to get a good night's sleep in Yun Cheng." Jing Shao felt so comfortable being caressed by that slender and warm hands that he couldn't help but squint his eyes, bury his face in the chest of the person next to him and hugged his narrow waist. "Then you sleep with me. If I'm not here, where else can I go?" Mu Hanjiang smiled, slid down a little, and laid down on the same pillow with him. Who knew that while in the middle of the battle, they unexpectedly able to take a nap so peacefully? Jing Shao felt that he had managed to steal of half a day's leisure. There were no obstacles along the way, nor were there many scattered weapons or corpses. This was probably because Hao Das Hao didn't forget to clean up the battlefield as he fought all the way. It was reported that when Hao Das Hao broke through the Tiger's Tooth and Crane's Beak Pass, he detoured to the Air Zhone Pass and broke through the pass in one fell swoop. Then he joined Zhao Meng's troops and fought without stopping. The Southwest Army was not expecting that the Shengjing Pass would fall within just a few days. They immediately fell into panic and got defeated every step of the way. The southwestern fiefdom was not big at all. Not far from the Shengjing Pass was already the main city, Yun Cheng. When they arrived near Yun Cheng, Hao Das Hao was already leading people to attack the city. The reason why Yun Cheng was named after the cloud was because of its unique terrain. It rose steeply from the ground and situated much higher than its surroundings. Looking from outside the high city wall, it really looks like it was built in the clouds. It was getting late and the army had just returned to camp. Seeing the main army, Zhao Meng took the lead and galloped over to greet them. When Hao Das Hao saw them, he told the soldiers to disperse on their own first, then he also dismounted to greet them. Military advisor. Military advisor, those 3 mystical notes you gave me are so useful. They are really amazing. This Lao Zhao really admire you. Zhao Meng didn't see Prince Cheng, so he ran straight towards the military advisor's carriage and shouted loudly as he stood outside the carriage. When the carriage curtain was lifted, it was actually their commander-in-chief who came out first. Jing Shao had slept soundly in the carriage while holding his prince consort's fragrant and soft body. He got out of the carriage and stretched out his limbs, then he turned around to help the other man who was still inside the carriage. He took and pulled out the hand that had always been lustrous and slender. Then, the military advisor came out slowly, dressed in snow-white robes and wearing a jade ornament on his hair with a fluffy tiger in his arms. Zhao Meng was stunned for a moment and then said with a smile, "I was wondering why His Highness was not around." It turned out that His Highness was avoiding work by hiding in the military advisor's carriage. "General Zhao, I trust that you had been well." Mu Hanzhong greeted Zhao Meng. Afraid that he would aggravate his wound again if he jumped off the carriage, Jing Shao took the little tiger and threw it into Zhang Lang's arms, then he reached out and lifted his prince consort in his arms. "Your Highness." Mu Hanzhong was caught unprepared and his face suddenly turned red. Even if they were in front of people who were aware that they were husband and wife, doing this would still be very embarrassing. What was more was that in the eyes of these people, there were only the military advisor and the commander-in-chief. This was really highly improper behavior. "You're injured, don't move randomly," Jing Shao said without changing his expression and carefully put his wife down. When Zhao Meng heard this, he immediately forgot about the ambiguous situation he had just seen and asked anxiously, "I heard that the camp was attacked. Is the military advisor injured?" Mu Hanzhong pursed his lips and glared at the person who was obviously doing this on purpose. Then he smiled slightly and said, "It doesn't matter, it's just a minor injury." "Haha, as long as it isn't serious, it doesn't matter." This Lao Zhao also got a few adornments this time. Men should have a few scars to display their manliness. Zhao Meng laughed heartily and was about to pat the military advisor on the shoulder, but Jing Shao's eyes were quick and his hands were even quicker to catch Zhao Meng's wrist. Hao Das Hao looked coldly at the noisy group of people. In this battle, he was really in awe of the prince's full trust and was impressed by the military advisor's clever calculations. However, these 2 people acted so ambiguously that he really couldn't stand it. Nevertheless, he wasn't someone who liked to intrude on other people's private affairs. He suppressed the emotion in his eyes and stepped forward to salute. Jing Shao looked at Hao Das Hao, who obviously knew when to advance and when to retreat, and nodded to himself. Then he looked at Zhao Meng, whose wrist he was still holding and couldn't help but felt his teeth clenched. He told everyone to unpack and gather in the middle tent. Based on the merits and demerits earned during the attack on Shengjing Pass, he would bestow rewards and punishments accordingly. Hao Das Hao made great achievements this time, and his bravery and fighting prowess was shown to the whole army. Jing Shao directly promoted him to a general, one of the top position in the army. Apart from the commander-in-chief, these generals had great authority over life and death decisions. As for increasing his rank and status, that would have to be bestowed by the emperor. No one had any objection to this, and Hao Das Hao knelt down to receive the general's uniform. "Haha, brother Hao is so brave and fierce. He deserved to be made a general." Zhao Meng also admired Hao Das Hao and happily gave Hao Das Hao a light punch as the latter stood up. "Don't be happy yet," Jing Shao looked at the silly and cheerful Zhao Meng coldly. Zhao Meng was so impulsive that he ignored the overall situation and almost caused the entire cavalry unit to be wiped out. He is not worthy of the position of general and would be demoted to the rank of lieutenant general. Zhao Meng heard this and knelt down with a mournful face to accept the punishment. This former general pleads guilty and accepts the punishment. After rewarding and punishing a group of young officers based on their earned merits and demerits, Jing Shao unfolded a map to discuss the plan to besiege Yun Cheng with everyone. This Yun Cheng only has two gates, one in the front and the other at the back. This general ordered people to guard the back gate to prevent the Southwest King from escaping. Hao Das-hao pointed at the map and said, "It's just that the terrain of Yun Cheng is too high, so it's really hard to get close to the city gates. Moreover, this general discovered that the walls of the city are very strong." After hearing what Hao Das-hao said, Mu Hanzhong frowned as he recalled the records he had read in the history books and spoke, "This Yun Cheng was built at the founding of the empire. To show his favor, the grand ancestor built a high wall with rice porridge and mud. It made the wall too strong that it's almost indestructible. Rice porridge and mud." Zhao Meng was astonished. Rice porridge and mud would make lime plaster stick better together, making it several times thicker. City walls constructed with this mixture would truly make it like an iron bastion and near impenetrable. "I see," Hao Das-hao nodded, "the military advisor is really knowledgeable." Jing Shao curled his lips and pointed to the simplified map of Yun Cheng. Then he pointed his slender index finger to the west side of the back door and said, "For one zhang along the west side, the wall was not constructed with rice porridge and mud." When they heard what he had to say, they all looked at him with stunned expressions. How did His Highness know that the part was not constructed with rice porridge and mud? Zhao Meng couldn't help but ask. Jing Shao glanced at him but didn't reply. Instead, he gave his orders, "Tomorrow the troops will be divided into two groups to attack the city. Zhao Meng will be the vanguard to attack the main gate and Hao Das-hao will lead another troop to attack the back gate." "Yes, Your Highness." Everyone took the order and left. ******. Jing Shao stretched out and followed his prince consort to the military advisor's tent. "Aren't you going back to the imperial tent?" Mu Hanzhong stopped and looked at him. This prince still have some things to discuss with the military advisor. Jing Shao said without changing his expression. "What's the matter?" Mu Hanzhong glared at him. Was this man afraid that others would not know that he was having an affair with the military advisor? "Don't you want to know the matter about the west side of the city gate?" Jing Shao smiled and leaned over. Mu Hanzhong turned sideways and said, "Raising tigers has its danger. A person of such wisdom and martial prowess like the grand ancestor would naturally leave a tactic for future generations. It is not unusual for an imperial prince to know about such secrets of the imperial family." After saying that, he turned and left. Jing Shao scratched his head. Fact was, this was no imperial secret. The grand ancestor kept the secret to himself, but he was right in assuming that the grand ancestor must have left this trick but not for the future generation. The grand ancestor, as a founder, must have been expecting the Southwest King to rebel at the start of the first dynasty. However, the Southwest King of that generation was a peaceful one that the grand ancestor had even forgot to tell his descendant about this trick. In the previous life, one of the soldiers carrying the battering ram was shot dead by an arrow, causing the ram to veer off course slightly and smashed that part of the wall by sheer luck. Jing Shao looked up at the waning moon, which was already as thin as a hook. In his previous life, he had wasted several months attacking and fighting in Shengjing Pass. This time, not even a month passed and he had already reached Yun Cheng. However, he could not celebrate this fact with anyone. It made him feel lonely, so he went back to the military tent and wrote a letter to his brother. After the lights were put out in the camp, he slipped out of the military tent and felt his way into the military advisor's tent. Wow! Xiao Huang, who was sleeping at the foot of the bed, had its tail suddenly crushed by the person who suddenly slumped down onto the bed. It immediately jumped up and roared at Jing Shao, only for it to be flicked on the head. Mu Hanjiang sighed helplessly and moved further into the bed to make room for him. Elated, Jing Shao immediately took off his coat and got into bed happily. "Can't you sleep in your own tent for one night?" Mu Hanjiang looked sideways at him. "It's not safe for you to sleep on your own." Jing Shao squeezed closer to the warm body. "What if there's another assassin?" Xiao Huang was very dissatisfied that the bed had been taken over. It pulled Jing Shao by his collar for a long time. However, Xiao Huang could not lift him out of the bed. Instead, Xiao Huang was the one who got grabbed by the scruff of its neck and was thrown onto the footrest. Xiao Huang sullenly climbed back onto the bed and nestled on Jing Shao's chest. It made Jing Shao felt as if a ghost was pressing him down and woke up with a start several times throughout the night. The next day, Zhao Meng and Hao Das Hao led people to attack the city, and the Southwest Army sent people out to fight. Zhao Meng fought hard with the opposing generals, and the fight was evenly matched. Soldiers from both sides rushed forward to engage in a melee. The Southwest Army mainly focused on defending the city. Seeing that the gate was being besieged, they quickly drew back into the city and started to drop rocks from above. Taking advantage of Yun Cheng's unique terrain, dropping rocks were extremely destructive. Zhao Meng was forced to lead his troops in retreat. Hao Das Hao's situation was not good either. Forget about attacking the city walls, even getting close to the city gate proved to be very difficult. After fighting for a whole day without success, the army returned to camp. They would fight again the next day. "Hey, I heard that His Highness stayed in the military advisor's tent again last night," a patrolling soldier whispered to another. "Ayo, ever since the assassin appeared that time, I often check the imperial tent." His Highness basically had never slept in the imperial tent, the other soldier whispered back. "What nonsense are you talking about?" The Right Protectorate General slapped someone from behind. The beaten soldier shrank his head and did not dare to say anything more, and continued to patrol obediently. "Aya, what's going on with His Highness and the military advisor?" Zhao Meng, who came over to have a chat with the Right Protectorate General, came out and couldn't help but ask when he saw this situation. "I don't know either." The Right Protectorate General looked at the ground in distress as he thought about what the military advisor said before. He couldn't help but shudder. Doesn't Prince Cheng dislike men? Didn't he raise a ruckus when His Majesty asked him to marry a man? Zhao Meng was very curious. Hao Das Hao, who came to share the dried meat with them, heard this and couldn't help frowning. "Are you saying that His Highness was already married, and it was even to a male wife?" "Yes. Don't you know?" Zhao Meng chuckled, thinking that finally there was something that Hao Das Hao didn't know. The prince consort is the son of the Marquis of Beiwei with a concubine. He is of noble birth. I heard that he is also very famous amongst the talented scholars in the capital. His wife was waiting for him in the capital, and yet Prince Cheng was doing such a lowly and illicit thing. It was really. Hao Das Hao put down the dried meat, turned around and left. *******. Mu Hanjiang was sitting alone by the river, watching the little tiger play as it tried to catch insects in the grass. When he heard the sounds of footsteps, he thought it was Jing Shao who had followed him. However, it turned out to be Hao Das Hao, who was wearing a gloomy expression. End chapter. The Wife is First. Volume 2, Campaign in the Land Under Heaven. Chapter 60, Prince Consort Cheng. "General Hao," Mu Hanjiang said as he stood up. He noticed that the other man's expression didn't seem right, and thus he asked, "Is something the matter?" Military advisor, this Hao Das Hao was a coarse man who lacked knowledge and experience, but there are some things that this humble one cannot just stand by and pretend not to see. Hao Das Hao looked at him menacingly. With his burly figure, which was a full head taller than Mu Hanjiang, he felt quite oppressive. Mu Hanjiang was stunned for a moment. Then he stepped back half a step and offered the other man the flat and clean stone border for him to sit on, and invited him warmly, If the general encounters any difficulties, then it is fine to speak what's on your mind. This Yun Cheng lacks talent, but if Yun Cheng can be of help to the general in any ways, then I will be happy to do so and would not refuse. Facing the gentle and courteous military advisor, Hao Das Hao felt as if his fists were only punching cotton. The fury in his heart was immediately suppressed, making him uncomfortable all over that he could only sit down on the boulder angrily. Wow! Xiao Huang jumped on the smooth boulder and curiously grabbed the bag around Hao Das Hao's waist and scratched at it. Mu Hanzhong looked at his expression and quirked his lips up quietly. What problem have the general encounter? Hao Das Hao sighed and said, Military advisor, I have no right to interfere in what exactly is going on between yourself and His Highness, but I heard that Prince Cheng already has a wife in the capital and that he was a male wife of noble birth. Mu Hanzhong frowned and asked, what does the general meant by saying this? The laws of the empire state that male wives are allowed to be married in, but taking on male concubines are not allowed. It is very disrespectful to Prince Consort Cheng for His Highness and the military advisor to have such ambiguous relationship. The more that Hao Das Hao spoke, the more impassioned he became. He was someone who had never been able to tolerate those who were fooling around behind their spouse's back. Getting married wasn't easy, and a man of good character was one who took care of his family properly. General Hao. Mu Hanzhong blinked. The military advisor's talent and abilities are more than enough for him to take the first place in the imperial examination. There was no need to cater to another man ambiguously. When spoken out loud, these words would indeed hurt someone's feelings. Hao Das Hao did not dare to look up and see Mu Hanzhong's reaction to them. The military advisor have always treated him well. For the past days, everything that the military advisor had done had made him admire the military advisor even more. He really didn't want to see him abuse himself like this. Looking at Hao Das Hao, who was acting like this, Mu Hanzhong's pursed lips couldn't help but curl up slightly. Then all of a sudden, he saw that Xiao Huang had bitten the cloth bag at his waist and used his claws to take out the dried meat inside it. It was currently eating the dried meat happily. Mu Hanzhong finally could not bear it anymore and laughed out loud. When Hao Das Hao lifted his head to look up at him, he quickly schooled the expression on his face and spoke, General Hao is really a faithful and affectionate husband. This Yun Cheng admires you very much. However, I am afraid that this one is no longer eligible to participate in the imperial examination in this life. Why is that? Hao Das Hao asked doubtfully. Because he had been married as Prince Cheng's male wife. Jing Xiao just stopped a few steps away after being given signs by his wife to do so with his eyes. However, he could no longer help but interrupt at this point. Hao Das Hao couldn't understand what he was talking about, so he stood abruptly and the dried meat in the bag fell all over the ground. Xiao Huang jumped on it with a wow. It was so overexcited that it didn't know which piece of dried meat to eat first. Jing Xiao strode forward and drew his prince consort in his arms. It's really hateful that these guys didn't have anything better to do after discussing military matter and actually did something like this to embarrass his Yun Cheng. Mu Hanzhong broke away from his arms that was wrapped around his waist. His handsome face was slightly blushing as he coughed slightly, then spoke to Hao Das Hao apologetically. It was absolutely necessary for this matter not to be speak about. It is truly unconventional for the wife and children to leave the capital if the head of their family is away at war. Moreover, it is my fervent wish to be truly accepted by every member of our troops instead of being treated like a prince consort with meaningless respect. This one hopes that the general can understand. Hao Das Hao's eyes widened. Then his resolute face gradually turned from black to red, then from red to green, and finally it became ghastly pale. Jing Xiao moved closer to hold his prince consort's waist. Then, he put his chin on his wife's right shoulder as he watched the changes in Hao Das Hao's face with interest. In his last life, whenever he went around visiting a brothel in Jiangnan, he would get scolded by Hao Das Hao, but he didn't listen to him at all at that time. He even ridiculed Hao Das Hao for being henpecked. Now that he thought about it, Hao Das Hao was in the right. Now that he had taken a wife, he should respect him and protect him. Et. He, in that case, it seemed that it is this Hao who was the one meddling too much in other people's business. Hao Das Hao laughed drily and turned to leave. General, Mu Hanjiang hurriedly called after him, it's best not to make this information widely known. Hao Das Hao pondered for a moment. Then he frowned and said, at least Zhao Meng and those on the upper echelon should be in the know, otherwise the prestige of the military advisory would be compromised. He had to say this as he recalled how those people secretly laughed at him. It wouldn't be good to let things continue like this. Besides, how could he be the only one to lose face? That makes sense, Jing Shao hurriedly agreed, you can go and tell a few of them, but keep it from the rest. After Hao Das Hao left, Mu Hanjiang suppressed the smile on his face and turned to look at Jing Shao, who was visibly pleased with himself. Your goal has been achieved, are you satisfied now? Jing Shao blinked innocently and tried to bluff his way out of the situation. The way you had been acting for the past few days, isn't it because you want everyone to know my real identity? Mu Hanjiang was annoyed as he said, why are you doing this? Humph, whenever I want to hold my own prince consort, I would have to sneak around to do so. Where in the world does that make sense? Jing Shao was a little guilty at beginning and gave random excuses. But the more he talked, the more he felt that his action was justified, and he gradually raised his head. Mu Hanjiang sighed, then he turned around to put away the scattered dried meat to prevent the tiger cub from overeating. Then he spoke in a low tone, although imperial father-in-law has acquiesced in this matter, other people in the capital are not aware of it. If this gets out, I'm just afraid it will stir up trouble. Jing Shao knelt down next to him and took him into his arms, then kissed his smooth forehead as he said, as long as I'm here, nothing will happen to you. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Hao Das Hao clasped his fists and rushed directly into the Right Protectorate General's tent. Sure enough, Zhao Meng was still there, and it seemed that the Left Protectorate General came as well. He pulled off the torn cloth bag from his waist, took another one and put the dried meat that was on the table into it. Hey, this is my dried meat. Where's yours? The Right Protectorate General rushed over to protect his pile. It's been eaten by a tiger cub. Hao Das Hao snorted. Did you really go to find the military advisor? Zhao Meng's eyes widened. This man was really bold. They had just spoken about it in private as well. Hao Das Hao was very brave to go and ask the military advisor directly. Such an intelligent and courageous man must have been in a secret dire predicament that left him with no other choice but to submit himself to His Highness in that way. Thinking of this, Zhao Meng immediately jumped up and said, why must you do something like this? How would the military advisor get along with the rest of our troops in the future? That's right, you acted too rashly. The Right Protectorate General scolded Hao Das Hao while packing up his own dried meat. The Left Protectorate General just kept drinking his hot tea silently. When he saw that the Right Protectorate General's bag was already full, he handed over his own cloth bag. What do you know? Hao Das Hao waved his hand and said angrily, he is the officially wedded Prince Consort Cheng. The lively military tent fell silent for an instant. Zhao Meng, who was about to rush out to comfort the military advisor, stumbled. The dried meat in the hands of the Right Protectorate General fell to the ground while the Left Protectorate General just continued to drink his tea silently. Ah! The patrolling guard heard a scream from the Right Protectorate General's tent and hurried over to ask what was wrong. However, he was promptly kicked out and could only continue patrolling in confusion. It's over, it's over. Zhao Meng squatted on the ground and rubbed his beard vigorously, recalling what he had done the first time Mu Hanjiang came to the camp. That was enough for Prince Cheng to beat him into a pulp. It's fine, it's fine. Didn't you just put your arm around Prince Consort Cheng when we were drinking together? The great Prince Cheng is magnanimous. He won't bother with you. The right protectorate general patted Zhao Meng's shoulder without much sympathy. Because of such shocking news, several generals did not dare to talk to the military advisor for several days. ******. Putting aside the chaos in the military camp every night, the siege on the city during the day never stopped. Due to Yun Cheng's terrain, it was not easy to attack the city. They called for formation in front of the gate every day. At the beginning, some people would come out for a challenge. Later, Hao beheaded the general who challenged him in a rage. No one dared to come out anymore after that. They only relied on arrows and bows as well as dropping rocks to prevent the imperial army from getting close. This stalemate lasted for half a month until the arrows in Yun Cheng was all used up. Because people in the southwest were accustomed to building houses with bamboo, all the stone houses that can be demolished in the city had already been demolished and there were no longer stones that could be used for as ammunition. Jing Shao ordered a pincer attack with battering rams to the city's front and back gates. The people in the city had been trapped for half a month with no reinforcement in sight. They were already discouraged. In the end, they were no longer have the capability to defeat the 100,000 strong imperial troops who took advantage of the flaw in the back gate and breached the city gate in one fell swoop. The imperial army rushed in. Jing Shao ordered the army to stand guard outside. He only brought 5,000 personal guards into the city and strictly ordered not to disturb the common people. They rushed straight into the palace of the Southwest King. No trace of the Southwest Prince could be found anywhere in the palace and only found a handful of concubines and a few unloved children who were left in the courtyard, crying incessantly. Grandpa left with some uncles a few days ago. Jing Shao asked these people, but no one could answer him. Only a little boy of about 6 or 7 years old spoke solemnly. Mu Hanzhong crouched down and asked him question in a warm tone. He found out that the boy was the legitimate grandson of the Southwest King. The Southwest King should have left in a secret passage in the palace. He had been in such a hurry that he did not manage to take this grandson with him when he fled. Your Highness, what should we do? Hao pinned his Han Yuan blade on the ground with a clang. Search for the secret passage and escort this child along with the other illegitimate children back to the capital. Dismiss all the concubines. The army will stay outside the city to rest. Only my personal guards will accompany us on the Southwest Palace. The next course of action will be decided once this imperial prince receives instructions from His Majesty. Jing Shao arranged everything in an orderly manner and Hao took the order and left. Mu Hanzhong stood in the courtyard and observed the Southwest Palace. The front courtyard was similar to the pavilions and kiosk in the south of the Yangtze River, but the back courtyard was filled with structures made up of bamboo which was unique to the southwest. They were lined up one after another and looked very interesting. Come, let's go and check out if there are any good things in this property. Seeing that Mu Hanzhong seemed to be interested, Jing Shao wanted to pull him into his arms but he was wearing an armor so it was not convenient. So, he just took his soft hands instead and led him into the main courtyard of the Southwest King's palace. The main courtyard of the Southwest King had the familiar red pillars and glazed roof tiles. It had been probably built at the founding of the country. There was also an inscription in the main hall with the Grand Ancestor's very own calligraphy which read loyalty and righteousness in very steadfast and broad strokes. The whole place was all in disarray which could have been caused by those concubines who came afterwards to search for valuable things. I'm afraid that anything of value would have been taken away at this point. Mu Hanzhong looked at a rosewood base on the table. There should have been some jade carvings on it before. That's not true. Jing Shao smiled mysteriously, most of the truly valuable things cannot be taken away. In his previous life, he had done many things to plunder the palaces of several vassal princes. Naturally, he knew exactly where the marvelous treasures were. He pulled his prince consort and led him to the study of the Southwest King. End chapter.